How's it going, everyone? John here, the host of Spirit Talk. Here to tell you to check out the spirittalkpodcaststore.com. That is spirittalkpodcast.com to check out all the Spirit Talk merchandise. We have coffee mugs, we have t-shirts, we have hoodies, we have sweatpants, we have guitar picks, we have stickers, we have pins. We have it all. You name it, we got it. You can also join the Spirit Talk Book Club, which sold out in 2024, and we are close to selling out 2025. So be sure to check out spirittalkpodcast.com for all your Spirit Talk podcast merchandise. Thank you all. How's it going, everyone? John here, the host of Spirit Talk. And today we get to welcome Clint Lowery to the program. Clint is a musician, songwriter, producer, obviously well-known as part of the guitarist and backing vocalist for the legendary rock metal band Sevendust. He's also been part of Steel Rain, Dark New Day, Hello Demons, Meet Skeletons, Call Me No One. His toured the world with various bands, including Korn and Seether. And he's also one of the few people in the music industry, at least I'm privy to working with, alongside people like Jacoby and Eric Bass, which I down, Jacoby of Papa Roach, that's very open, at least recently, with their faith journey. And I know we're going to talk about the music and stuff like that. This will be part of it, but I think today, again, awesome to have you on here, Clint, finally. And I think I kind of want to start with like how cool it is that you were so open recently with your faith journey.
Yeah, thanks for having me, brother. I'm very happy to start there because I think that is the foundation of everything right now for me. Honestly, man, I've had through my life, I've had wavering, I've had a belief in Jesus Christ, I've had a belief in the principles of the Bible and that basic framework, but my relationship with Jesus Christ was wavering. I took a lot of control over myself. There's been a lot of times in my life when I was in my active alcoholism and drug addiction, there was a weird existence because I was always in that foxhole prayer state, but not willing to give up any of the things that I was doing. I was not surrendering to that and opening my heart to Jesus. So, through the years I got sober. That cleared my mind enough to have a stronger connection. But even with that, there was a lot of self-seeking. There was a lot of, I'm sober now, so physically I feel better. My life's coming together, so let me take credit for that. Let me be the one that's doing all this. And there's ego and there's no humility in that. And through my sobriety journey, I did learn to come to terms with the defects I had as a person in terms of my selfishness, my ego, my lack of service for others. So that kind of improved, and I have a wife and 2 children that I've been blessed to be the father of, and been very active in their life. But over the last 6 months, I've had a lot of health issues, still having them, and pretty, we're trying. We've had a lot of tests, and that has put me on my knees mentally thinking about what the possibilities are, very scary possibilities. And it was through that suffering that of the unknown that I was completely in the same way that I've hit my knees in my active addiction, when I hit the lowest of bottom. It was a gift of desperation I needed to connect with God. And this is similar to that. Because I'm sober, I'm doing all these things, but I was put to my knees in fear, unknown physical symptoms, and it just completely reignited my relationship with Jesus Christ. And actually, I would go as far as to say it's the first real relationship I've had with Jesus Christ. God is my Savior, and it has brought me comfort in times that I still have tremendous doubt, but that's a long version, but that ignited my relationship. I gave my heart to Jesus Christ recently. I believe in speaking on it. I believe that spreading it is my mission now, and being around others and helping people that aren't necessarily in that belief, but just being kind to my fellow man.
Right. And you have openly spoken about how fear, the alcoholism and addiction was a coping mechanism for dealing with your fear, whether it's touring, being who you want to be, like just doing what you do. It's like, has that type of feeling ever encroached you, especially the last 6 months as you go through kind of like this health scare?
Um, I, I've been recently, the fear, I didn't really understand fear in the way that it was told to me. Fear is just this, it's anger is fear, all these other things. There was fear underlining to so many decisions I was making. Um, and once I was able to have with help with others, like trying to pinpoint the fear and where it sat. If you weren't like very nice to me in my bandmate situation, there was fear because I want you to like me and I want you to like agree and I want you to be this certain way because so there was so much fear around every corner emotionally and I didn't realize it and I'm still and that's just your day-to-day fears, the things that you are driven by the ego and like I mentioned before, but this fear was you know in a form of self-obsession because I was trying to figure out what was going wrong with me medically and had so much fear in that. And I realized also through my relationship with Jesus that if I have that true relationship and that true connection, that fear should subside. It should, if I truly believe in my heart that I am going to be okay, no matter what the diagnosis, whatever, anything, I surrender that. And it has brought me so much comfort, man. I'm talking about on the darkest
Yeah.
of mindset where thought truly I was checking out. And it brought me comfort even in that darkest moment.
When
And that
you
was
were, yeah, it's like when you were at the lowest of the low, um, like you're dark, the darkest version of yourself. Did you find that you were you able to talk to Jesus or pray to God? Like, how were you able to maintain that kind of relationship with Him and to allow it to blossom to what you have with Him now?
so man, it's such a great question, and I've been so deep into this, so I'm so ready to have this conversation, man, because I believe that there's these God winks, and there when I completely submitted to the Word, reading, prayer, not always talking in my prayer because I was really clever and I liked the way that I sounded when I was praying. I liked how articulate I was being and honestly boasting in my prayer so that I've had all that stripped away through the suffering and then I'm honestly just waiting for the signs and through that and just putting myself in a position to see these interactions that God puts in our lives. I've numerous things have happened to me since then in terms of people events that happen. There's a butterfly that was in it flew in my hand or not in my hand, but it was dying in my driveway. And I'd watched this Robin Williams movie, Jack,
Yeah.
earlier that day. And there's a scene where he has this butterfly and that I watched it and I was in a bad state watching it with my daughter. And later that day I ran an errand, came back and there was a butterfly dying in my driveway. And, I know a lot of people have always said stuff like that, but um, I, I see signs now that I think were always there, but I wasn't looking for them because I was caught up in my own stuff. So I see so much of that glory. It can be in small things, it can be in large things, but now that I'm open to it, it's been a better existence
Right.
overall.
It's such a the correlation between sobriety and finding the faith is like such an interesting for me because at least I mean I've always and I'm very open about my Christian faith, my Catholic faith, my upbringing, very open about God. But it wasn't until coming out of the pandemic where I'm kind of like, if I'm going to do this the right way, I want to unabashedly be the version of myself I deserve to be and want to be. And I felt like if you knew me enough, you knew I was Christian and wear a crucifix and stuff like that, but you never really knew how outspoken I am about it. Now able to have discussion like this for yourself or Eric and other people about faith and religion and all different backgrounds. It's been almost like a weight lifted off my shoulders where I can feel like normal, if that makes sense. And the reason I bring this up is because is when you started posting your daily affirmations, which like you and Jacoby, the fact you're able to put that stuff out there is amazing. I noticed that 99% of the people on your post were like, this is awesome. Glad, happy for you. This is amazing. And then there's always that small percentage of people that still to this day with myself and the podcast, where it's like, oh, you have great guests, but why do you talk about your faith? Or I used to love your band. Now you're open talking to Jesus, and it's like, well, hold on a second. I've always been this version of me. You just don't like the fact that you're getting the full thing. It's like, how do you kind of deal with people that don't quite understand that Clint Lowery, the human being, while he's still Clint Lowery in Sevendust, he's also Clint Lowery just outside of that. He's so much more than just music.
Yeah, and there was a lot of I had a lot of apprehension in terms of announcing,
Yeah.
my faith in that way, because I had resentments towards certain aspects of religion before growing up, and I had a lot of, so I understand. I've been that person that's like, man, they're gonna come preach to me and all this, and I understand. I mean, I've had a lot of problems with the human element of religion and how it's presented to people, and so I totally understand that. Where now the place I'm at, where I, I have an obligation to me and my relationship with God and Jesus to to put that out as like you said, who I am. That is what and it's always been there, so like you said, once you you put this information about yourself. I used to keep it personal because I was actually scared of running some of the rock people away, and in the same way that it is. So I chose their concern over my relationship and my connection and my ability to maybe reach out to the people that do have that, and they're on the fence. I mean, maybe because there's been people that I've seen that have spoken on it and proudly spoken on it, and I'm like, man, I think that's great, man. Maybe I should do that, because that's what it is. We're helping each other. We're trying to give hope to each other, and for me, it's been the best source of hope. And I believe, it moves mountains, and all those things that I used to wince at. I don't do that now, and I don't really care what people think about it. If I lose a fan or whatever, like that's okay. I'm still going to continue making music. I'm still going to do the things. I don't. I'm not too concerned. I'm too old. I'm too in my belief, man, and take it or leave it. I'm not gonna dole it down anymore.
Right. I'm always fascinated by at least celebrities when it comes to sporting games, where after a playoff win or they get their 500th home run, it's like they always thank God, which is, I love it. Don't get me wrong. But those same moments when they strike out 10 times in a row or they lose, it's like there's very rarely do you see our athletes or celebrity, and I use that term lightly, thank God when they're at their lowest or when they didn't win. And so it's
Oh,
like
that's fantastic.
and it's such a I love when there's humility in the fact that, you know what, God's still with me, win or lose. I'm much bigger than the game. I'm much bigger than I have higher purpose. And so I love when athletes and people that their first thought is to start the day and end the day with their talks to God or whatever. I think I don't know if you want to touch upon that, but I always just laugh sometimes when it's like, well, of course you're thanking God because you won the Super Bowl, but last year when you didn't make the playoffs,
Yeah.
the interview you did at the press box, you didn't mention God once. So can you
Wow.
have it both ways, or is it someone trying to figure out how they can kind of, or maybe I'm being judgmental, questioning the relationship with the God they have?
I it's a very interesting observation. Honestly, I've never thought about it. I've never thought about that. And I'm not even, when you said that, I immediately looked inward. I was like, have I done that? Have I looked at, and through all the stuff I'm going through now, physically, mentally, I'm thanking God for that particular experience, because it's brought me closer to Him and other people, and I've been kinder, man. And so for I call myself out a lot these days, because I have to be mindful too when I do those daily the gratitude list. I've been doing that for years in sobriety, but I just over the last few years started doing it publicly, and I would find myself even boasting in that. I would find myself in some of those entries, passive aggressive little jabs, judgmental jabs about whatever it is. Because I went on an inventory, I went back and looked, and and all those lists, when did I give it up to Christ? When did I give it? When was I? How humble was I in these lists? Truly. So
Yeah.
I make adjustments, and the fact that I always, I thank God many times when I or ask for prayers, but just to thank God for the bad experiences. Thank you for giving me this failure so I grow from it. Because a lot of the same athletes say, "Man, I need the failure to grow." Thank God for that, because God, yeah, I believe the gifts that He gives us. I think that He gives us the free will to do things, to fail, and what is beautiful about the free will is to say, God, you gave me these gifts. You gave me, put me in a position or put me in a mental state to fight for that position. I got it. And I was unable to perform at the level that my gifts, and that could be for many reasons. Maybe my effort wasn't, maybe my training wasn't good, maybe my nutrition, whatever it was. But the fact that to acknowledge, thank you for giving me the free will to fail, to get better, or, you know, uh, and learn from it. So that's a really interesting thing to unpack. I've never thought about that until you brought that up.
Now, this is kind of like a two-part question off of that. Did you notice your creativity, whether songwriting, whatever it was you're doing, change? Or if you could you go back and be like, when you were at your lowest with the addiction, how was your songwriting changed now from then? And could you have been as successful as you are now without the addiction? And the same thing with your faith journey. Have you noticed that when you now have kind of put God at the forefront, that your approach to lyrics and songwriting and creativity has changed again?
Um, there's no doubt about it. I was a young man when I was in my drug addiction. I was, until I was 36. So there's a lot of fire and spark in a younger artist. So there's automatic. It doesn't matter if you're doing drugs or drinking or whatever. You have a creative
Yeah.
spark, and you're like ready to roll. So you can work through a lot of that. You can still be creative and functional through that. And then sometimes it even opens doors mentally because you're in anguish and you write about that. I did. And then there's the flip side where I was in my sobriety. I've been so productive. I sit at the drawing table more. I'm more focused. So there's more content. There's more quantity. There's more material being written. I'm not in a fetal position, throwing up, trying to detox. So I automatically am in a better position mentally and physically to participate in the creative process. Um, so all those things got better in my sobriety. My effectiveness as a bandmate improved. All the things. I wasn't the liability. Now I'm the person that is trying to keep the train moving. And I used to be the one. And Eric, Eric knows, and other bands know. Man, I was a mess. And a lot of my fellows or fellow musicians out there, they've come back. Jacoby's a huge,
Yeah.
gosh, man, what a story that guy is. And I love him. He's always been great to me. Eric, same way. I have so much respect for those two guys. And so anyway, um, as far as the faith and the lyrics, I've debated on doing an EP that was just my offering to God many times and procrastinated on it. So now I'm. It's funny you say that because I'm ready to put that on paper, pen and paper, and give something to him, and then maybe use it as an opportunity to give all the proceeds to charity and just kind of use that. Why not?
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
Well, I find it interesting 'cause I didn't realize your connection you had, nor did you write Yahweh with Michael Sweet of Striper. And I love Striper and stuff, but like your connection with that and that chance meeting him, it's when you look back at stuff like that, it's almost like maybe that was one of those wigs, God wigs, where it's like, hey, start surrounding
Yeah,
yourself with the right people that can kind of have been where you are and where they are now, where God is a predominant part of their lives.
yeah. And Richie, the drummer for Fire from the Gods, he's mixed stuff for me. We've written songs together. This kid's just a great soul. Has great faith. And him and I met years ago, and our relationship is kind of. I think he's kind of, not to put his business out there, but I think that a collaboration with him in terms of that that gift to God and kind of directing our message there. I think he was definitely put in my life for a reason, because we've had a lot of great conversations with that. So he's a very talented guy, producer, mixer, writer, drummer, just super sweet kid, man. And so yeah, I'm open to do that, absolutely, and I'm eager to do it.
It's talking with Eric, we do our podcast, and it's like one of those things where it's like Shinedown's not a political band, they're not a religious band. Sevendust isn't a political band, you're not a religious band. You're just good people to represent all aspects of life. Just be a good person, right? And it's like for him to kind of, when we talk about this stuff, where it's like he doesn't have to walk on stage and be like, oh, thank God, praise God. He's able to show how that relationship with God works by how he presents himself. And I kind of anticipate like how you kind of would do the same way, where it's like you're not walking out in the middle of a Sevendust show, people all sweaty and stuff saying, hey, thank God today. I mean, maybe you could do it your own way, but people would
Yeah.
see the change in you and be like, you know what, it's working for him, and maybe that might work for me.
Yeah. It's that promotion and attraction rather than promotion element. And you see what you see in someone else. There's been a ton of people that I'm like, man, what is it that that person has? And then then I find more, I talk to them more. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. I don't think anybody wants to be forced into it. I think what you said exactly. They just want to see the example, not hear about it, or because a lot of people talk and a lot of people say this and that. And I've been in my older age, I really observe people more now, and I'm like, all right, I hear what you're saying, but what are you doing? You know?
Right.
And I've been guilty of it too. I'm in any stone I throw to anyone, I throw right back at myself. I've done a lot of things wrong through my life, and I just am super grateful that I'm willing to understand that maybe there's a different choice, maybe there's a different direction, you know.
Right.
And,
I've read that Dave Mustaine, Megadeth, he won't do certain shows if there's bands on a festival that are openly promoting anti-God or anti-satanic type stuff. And Richie Lawless from Wasp, there's some songs he won't play because he found God and he doesn't want to represent the old version of himself. And there's obviously countless artists like that. Do you ever see yourself, you guys are at a festival one day and say there's a band up there that's just completely anti, like in your face, God's sucks and middle finger, Satanist, all this stuff? Or are you able to kind of separate the content and the art of that act with what you guys are doing in your own entity and playing around the same fans?
well, I'm a big fan of the Chosen show.
Yeah,
The
oh, yeah,
series.
yeah.
So there's like a lot of examples about that. It's like you want to go where the cesspool is. You want to put yourself in a position to be around that. And then there's bands that the artists that weren't there at the Grammys, and you believe me, there's been a lot of times in my life where I would listen to God inspiration music, and I would be like, why isn't it darker? Why can't you present it in a way where there's all these same emotions? And I want the words to be raw. I want it to be a real like worship song, but I want to give you the grit that I go through as well, because I think that's just as important. You don't have to completely write a song about being in the depths of hell, but just like fighting through that. And maybe that was what God was wanting me to do, just kind of do my version of that. Because going back to whether there's a band on that other stage, there's been times when Sevendust, I'm like, man, I don't really agree with I wrote some of these lyrics and I'm not that person anymore. And I got to go up there and shout these out. And it's a very church like situation with our band experience with the people. And so I think I try to reframe it like, I know where my heart's at. I know where my love is for God. And, someone said to me one time, you're going to do something until it's too objectionable to you. Because I said, should I stop? Should I stop writing this kind of music? Should I do this? He said, God will give you he will tell you when this is too much, this is too objectionable to you, and it'll be natural. And it's true. And what I do from here, I think people that come to our shows are pretty good people. Yeah. We play with the most satanic bands ever. And I don't, I'm like, you have your message, I have mine. I don't, I understand where Mustang's thinking that he just doesn't want to be around that if he has a choice, and he does respectfully. He has a choice. I respect that too, but I'm not afraid to be on a stage with him. I'm like,
Right.
that's what you do.
Right.
I pray for him. I'm not, and when I say I pray for him, I don't mean it in the way that the condescending. Oh, I'm gonna pray for you. You don't agree with me, so I'm gonna pray for you. I mean it like, man, I've been in the darkest place too. So I'll pray for. I hope that you get into a better place, whatever that is to you. Mine is Jesus Christ and God as my Savior. That's mine, and I'm happy about it. And I want other people to be happy in their life.
You how easy is it for you, or how like beneficial for your soul? I mean, when you toured with Korn and those guys, again, some of them with their openness to God now and stuff, it's amazing. And even with you and the Sevendust stuff, it's like obviously the band is receptive and aware of your journey you're on. It's like, how hard would it be to be in those situations where you're on the road, and as you know more than anyone, how tough it can be out there, stress on the family and addiction, all that stuff, where you weren't surrounded by crew people or band members that weren't supportive of this kind of journey you're on, or this whatever this relationship you have with God, where it's like how much more difficult it could be if they were so like against what you were trying to do.
I would have to step away. Honestly, I would be prepared to step away. Luckily, in my Sevendust, none of us are saints. We've had our struggles, but we pray before our shows.
That's awesome.
We talk about God. We thank God. We're sinners, you know, on a daily, and they're out there right now just keeping the machine going. And I love them so much. And I just talked to them before we spoke. And in the heart of those guys, I know they're good. Are they perfect? No, absolutely not. But if they ever came and said, there's times where we've been on different spiritual pages, man. And, it's tough because it's not like I'm judging them. I'm just like, man, I want to be around good. I want to be around this type of energy, and they're good too. It's just not what they're talking about and not what they're feeling. And there's a lot of, differences in terms of where we're at mentally. So I love my guys. If they ever said, man, look, I don't know. I don't want to talk about that. Cause we've talked about God under some of the words that we've had. I've written direct, messages to God. So I would step away from anyone that was tell me that I can't, do that or
Right.
present myself. I have to walk away.
Right.
To walk away.
And it's like it's so tough when people decide just to stick around that and just feed their unhappiness. Like I've never, I guess there's ego attached to it. Like, oh, I'm not going to walk away from this platinum selling, highly successful, legendary band because they don't understand my relationship with God. It's like, I don't know, if you saying stuff like that reaffirms to me that we all, no matter what we do in our lives and what we are doing, our goals are, that find the true version of ourselves. I think everything else will kind of fall in line with that.
Yeah. I've been on the bus. There's been times where I'm like, man, I don't want to be on the lifestyle out here. I don't want to be around this anymore. But I stayed because, um, there's a part of the financial stability. There's a certain sense of security in the familiar, and then there's if I'm gonna, I want to be out there and be a positive thing. I want to use my platform, my individual social pages to present something positive. Not that the other guys are doing anything bad, but I have a choice to be in any kind of situation and not drink, not do drugs, not treat women disrespectfully, not lust after women, not lie to my wife, not, try to communicate with my children, make sure I'm a foundation for them, because that is the most important thing. I walk away from music tomorrow if and the guys, we've scaled back the amount of touring we have, and they've been very cool because I have young ones, man. I want to be there for their moments. And that, I
Right.
don't care, man. I've given a lot to this industry, man. I don't owe anyone anything. I owe my children everything,
Right.
and my wife.
Have you, and sometimes with my talks, like the talks with gods, I don't, I mean, I guess you call it praying. It's never like a formal thing. Usually when I'm cutting the grass or writing or doing something else podcast wise, where I'm just kind of like openly just talking to myself, but I know he's kind of listening. Do you ever find that you kind of like it took me the longest time to kind of like sort through my anger towards God with why certain stuff happens. Sick
Mhm.
father, nieces are sick, someone gets hurt, or why these kids get cancer and die at a young age, stuff like that. Where I'm always like, my anger is it just took me. Do you ever find yourself where you're kind of like realizing it's okay to be angry at God? But
Yeah.
is it anger at God or just venting to Him, where it's like he's not going to tell us why something happens. I mean, I think ultimately we would love to know why you are going through what you're going through and what's the outcome, what's going to lead to something bigger or whatever. But we're not going to get that answer. It's like, how do you like, at least with me, my talks with God, 99% of the time are great, like, hey, grateful. And then when I get pissed off, I just say what's on my mind. And sometimes I'm kind of like, maybe I should have said that. But I'm also like, you know what? It allowed me to, again, be true to myself, and I think he kind of respects that. I just don't know. It's such a weird dynamic, that anger hate relationship with God.
I think that's a beautiful thing. That's a real relationship. That's a real, you do that with your brothers and your friends.
Right.
Like that's a relationship. Only thing I struggle too with why is there sickness? My mom passed away, it shook my faith tremendously because I'm holding her. She's skin and bones, man. She's just fading into this thing, and then I'm like, all we are is meat and skeletons. Like it really just like I don't. There's no rhyme or reason. I believe that this everything was just it's something happened, but I don't know if it's necessarily Jesus or God that created all this. And so it shook my faith big time. And I had those anger conversations, but the beauty is I was having a conversation with
Yeah.
someone that I believed as Jesus and God. And I've doubted it. I've had hollow prayers. I've done aggravated, like, why are you doing this? And then I think, through what I've been studying, what I've been reading about, it's like that suffering, the children that die so early and go through so much pain. It's like that suffering is a lesson to us. I've said it before, and and that's why God's using me. Maybe if God's calling me home for whatever reason, that's guess what? I'm going to try my best to do as much good as I can for as many people as I can before I leave this world. And if God saw to see a child suffering, I saw my niece, go through leukemia and all that. I'm like, that's God's work. That's God putting something on us. If we're aware and look at that, say, look, that is a lesson. Look how tough and resilient these children are. Look how humble they are and upbeat. And then that ripple effect of what strength really looks like. I know a lot of tough guys, and when I learned a lot of tough women. What kids go through in that state is by far way more
Correct.
tougher than anything I've seen a grown ass man do. And so, in that strength, that can ripple and send hundreds of people out in the world saying, you know what, I'm going to act a little better today. I'm going to be a little bit better. Maybe that was her purpose. Maybe that was that child's purpose to go through that. And maybe it's my purpose to go through whatever, just to show and stay in faith. The children are so innocent, man. God has them. I believe they're put here for a little while just to give a mother and father love and show them. I mean, the connection those people have with a dying child. How powerful is that? How much empathy no one experiences the amount of empathy and compassion and fear as a parent watching their child go through that. I've watched my children hurt a little bit, and it's never taken me out of me faster than when my son got his stitches on and ripped the top of his hand off. I was going through all my things, man. My body was
Oh
all
yeah.
acting weird, and he got hurt on a football field, and I absolutely, every cell in my body was pointing toward him and comforting him. So that is the mechanisms that I think make those terrible tragedies make more sense to me. I don't want them to happen. I think it's terrible, but God promised there will be suffering.
Yeah.
And when and how that happens, none of us know.
For me, I've always had it was tough. It took me the longest time to realize that sometimes when I hear, as you do on the road, catering, people backstage complaining, oh, it's raining out, it's a long
Oh,
loaded, and for the longest time, I just got, do you realize there is someone out here that's not complaining, that's got two sick kids, a dying father, bills, all this craziness. They're trying to stay sober, or there's a kid dying in Dana Farber, or this whatever. And it took me the longest time. And then when I hear start people bitching about like, oh, my hand hurts, my foot hurts, it's like it took me the longest time to basically sit back. It's okay if these people have these thoughts. It's okay if they are maybe physically hurting. Why I should not have to judge them like they're someone they're not. And it's like I almost it had like a sense of resentment because like I hate uttering the phrase "I'm tired" or "I don't know if I can do this." I know I can do it. I know I'm not tired because it's gonna get done. But selfishly, I've always like if I say I'm tired, I am admitting defeat to something that someone would kill to be in my position to even have the chance to say they're tired. And it's like
Yes, sir.
how did you kind of is it tough to kind of it's like a weird feeling to feel that like I don't want to say that stuff. I say it because I looked at him and go, man, I'll show you tired.
Yeah.
Who's that kid that got hit by a drunk driver, learning how to walk again? And you think you're loaded when it's ready out and the festival's tough? And
Yeah.
so it's like, but what if they are having a bad day pulling cables and do have a sick father at home? And what they're saying is maybe it's generally true. It's like, it's tough for me to kind of separate the two. I don't know if you want to kind of touch upon that.
Yeah, I mean, I like you have been around that exact dynamic for years, and I've been the one that participated in the complaining, and
Oh,
I've been the
sure.
one that resented the guy for complaining. You know, so I think it's all relative. I think everyone's you know complaints are validated, and they can be. It's a relative. It's a problem. You know, yeah, everyone's tired, load in. We this and that. Retraining my default setting from a warrant of complaint. And that goes back to you are who you surround yourself with. If you're around a lot of people, a lot of musicians I know complain about everything. They complain about VIPs, and think about a VIP, man. These people probably missing out on paying a bill to be at that, to have a moment with you. There's that. And then there's so many other aspects, people sitting in lines that are freezing cold, that they don't have a lot of money, and they're coming, and there's people that are just so excited about this experience. So it if you're aware of it, if you have the gift of being just aware of it and willing to say, you know what, let me reframe my mind. It's just a happier existence. It's just a better way to live. And I do those gratitude lists for that very reason, because I wake up not happy. I wake up irritated. I wake up thinking, why did that person say this to me? And then I do that to say, okay. And it helps a tremendous amount. And that was why I wanted to start that. But it's so easy to go back. Now I'll tell you all this, and I'll honestly, about 2 hours from now, I'll complain about something.
For sure.
You know what I mean? I will absolutely forget everything, and then I'll hopefully catch myself and just think about it, man, from like exactly what you said, man. Like, and it feels good to have people observe those experiences like you, and to share it. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, all right, I'm not the only one. And there's so much we can be grateful for, man. You know, but I think I've been doing it. I've been playing music 30 years. For me, even what is my perception of something cool, sitting in a bus, right? A bus is great. You're backstage and you can do all this stuff. It's a metal tube. It doesn't smell great all the time. And there are things that aren't ideal with that,
Yeah.
you know, like, but when I first got on the Blue Diamond, a bus years and years ago, I was thrilled. You put that kid on any bus right now, he's into it. I was happy to be in an RV. So the perception I got worn down. I got jaded. I got beat down by I took advantage of how good I had it. We're a mid-level band. Sevendust is not the biggest band in the world, but we have a lot of comforts out there. We have people getting food for us. We have all these people that are kind of serving us. And there's been a lot of times we have all this food on the bus, and there's people out there on the street. I didn't give any of it to them. I think about that a lot now. I could have spent 2 hours taking that to food shelters, how much food we leave behind, you know, how much per diems, man. I don't need all that money. I don't. but my perception is I do. And if I don't get my per diems, I'm mad and I deserve this. I've done my career. What, that's not useful. You know, that's not helping anybody, man. I don't have regrets, but I tell you what now, man, there's so much more I could have been doing, so much more. And I intend on doing it.
Right. And what would you think was easier for you? Be the version of yourself that was the addict, or the version of yourself now that has your connection with God?
The version of I am now, the connection with God, I'm super thankful for the old version because the old version, like you see, hear that cliche everywhere.
Yeah.
I needed to go through that to be here, but I am really grateful.
Right.
I hurt people, man. I lied to people. I did a lot of things, but man, I tell you what, man, it carved the pain in my heart strong enough to be willing to change because I did not want to change, man. I wanted to keep escaping all the childhood drama and all the things that happened to me when I was a kid. And my insecurities is I didn't feel every time we're about backstage with all these bands, I feel completely, I don't deserve that. I don't feel like that. I don't feel cool like those guys. I never have. And that alcohol made me feel that way. But now I feel I'm comfortable in my own skin. I know my limits, but I know my strengths.
Right.
And I observe people's strengths more than I used to. I used to be threatened by him. Now I'm like, man, that dude's good, man. He's a good singer. That's a great guitar player, man. She's a phenomenal performer. You know, that security guard has got that whole thing locked.
Yeah.
I just watching people be good at what they do is like, man, that's cool.
Right.
That's the top tier right there.
Right.
Know?
It's so interesting to hear you say that because when I first met you, and I've most of my touring career has been Nickelback and Shinedown, and so their stories, and not really stories, but they're like, hey, those Sevendust guys, their family, the Lowery brothers, their family. So like hearing that all the time, and then seeing you for the first time, this is years ago, maybe Aftershock or some Danny Wimmer festival, and I see you like, oh God, this is a guy that looks like he's been at some bar fights, or if there is a bar fight, he's the first one off the bus swinging.
Yeah.
But hearing you say that, talk about how you were feeling eternally then, it kind of makes you wonder where it's just like the courage you have to be the version you are now and talking about the stuff. If other musicians or just people going through life hear this, they're going to be like, you know what? It's not like how you look or what people perceive you as, it's like who you really are inside. And it's like the fact you're able to kind of let that version of yourself kind of like drift away, that's super powerful.
Oh, well, thank you, brother. It took a lot of ass whippings, you know, a lot of humility, man. And I'm still, I just do I want to say, man, just from where you come from, what your background is, what you've been around, I just think it's super interesting to have your insight, to put that out there, because you have that exterior. Well, like, man, this guy, like, you know, he's a tough kid. You know, he's a tough dude, and I've seen you a very sweet person, but I would never anticipate the deep levels you can go to, and that to me is that's strength. That isn't like, and I've been the guy where like, man, I don't want to get sappy. I don't want to do any of that.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna. And I have a lot of friends like that, and I still love them, hug them. Like, come on, man. You know, I can throw my hands too, but I get scared, man. Like, I'm super scared of confrontation. I don't like it. It makes me nervous, man. So I love guys that are like that. They're tough, but they're like, man, you know what, man, I'm having a hard time, dude. Like, I'm really struggling, and the fact that someone's comfortable enough around me to tell me that. And I'm talking about the toughest stuff. I'm sure you've been around some of these dudes that are just like next level, but they have fear, man. They have the same stuff, and they've been calloused in a lot of ways through training and through, you know, whatever. You know, they're tough guys and tough women as well. But it's good to be able to say, man, be vulnerable, I guess.
Yeah, it's that balance of like, I think it's okay to have an ego of some sorts if it's coming from a place of a pride or a sense of, you know, I put a lot of work in.
Yeah.
I want to walk into I look at this now where if I walk into any room of my peers or in a room of people that know what I do, they can look at me and be like, you know what? He might not be perfect, or I might not have a good relationship with that person, might not know the person, whatever it is. when it comes to my actual work ethic and work, you're gonna be like, well, I'm not gonna question him.
Yeah.
And it took me the longest time to kind of realize that ego's okay. But on the other side of that, where you don't put the time in, you don't put your heart on your sleeve, you just want everything handed to you, and you rip apart other people and don't build people up. It's like that part of ego is such a detrimental, like it's basically it's worse than career suicide or just suicide itself, where it's like you are slowly eating away all that is like why you were put on this earth. It's like it's disheartening. It's like when you see that, you're just going to be like, man, if I could knock you out or just grab you and shake you, and be like, what are you doing? I want to.
Yeah. That's a great point, man. I mean, there's so much. The ego balance is a very difficult thing because I am 100% with you. I think it's a necessary thing, especially for an artist to get up there. You have to. It's like confidence. I like to say confidence
Yes.
and ego is where it goes, but ego is necessary. It is absolutely God given, I believe. Um, the usage of all these emotions are to be moderated, and that through relationship of humility, I tend to be in a better position to regulate those emotions, be it anger, be it fear. I don't want to sit in fear. I don't want to be too vulnerable either. I don't want to be, talking about my feelings all the time. I have to show strength. I have to show restraint. I have to be that ego, like you said, the balance. That's a difficult thing to do. And I don't know a lot of people that do it great. It is absolutely, I've talked a lot. I've gossiped about other musicians. I've
Oh
gossiped about
yes.
I've done that so many times. And that is unfortunately the culture. Like if you go to any festival, there's 20, 25 buses. Guess what everyone's talking about on their bus? Well, you see so-and-so set list? Oh yeah, man. I think we're going to take them. Like all that stuff, and that's great. I think you guys have even spoken on that.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to get out there and do the best, but there's a difference between getting up and being healthy competition kind of energy, and then there's like, man, I've heard so many people when a band crushes, they'll still sit there and say, man, I don't like what they said. Or, I don't like. It's just too weird, man. They're playing the tracks or this and that. There's like Taryn, like, dude, why don't what's so bad about them having a killer show?
Right.
Like that's good for rock and roll. That's good. That's good for all of us. And if they kicked your ass, get back to your craft.
Right.
Go ask them. I asked bands that I asked, man, what are y'all doing? How did y'all do that? Like, that was a cool transition, man. I think we're going to use that. I mean, that's where I'm at. Especially these new bands, they're doing some cool stuff, man. I'm like, how did you do that?
Right.
Before I'd be like, but that's fear too. Fear of someone else being taking your slot.
Yeah, for sure. And to your point, I remember at least starting in the industry, I'd read all the tabloids or the books, or you hear people talk and the news stories where it's like you get these preconceived notions or ideas of what bands or people are like based on interviews or other people's interactions. And a couple of years ago, again, Danny Weaver Festival, I believe, I think it was Rockville. It was Shinedown, we're Lamb of God, Mastodon, another band. We're in this compound area. And I had always heard that, and the Shinedown guys, they love Mastodon. They love musically, they're just a lot of cool, I mean, some crazy road stories, but
Yeah.
you get the point. And I had never met them. I don't even know the music. Um, and seeing them interact and talking to Brent and a couple of guys after the show, like you said, by the buses, all in a circle. And like, it was such I think I told the drummer where I'm like, man, I had such a notion of what I perceive you guys were going to be like. And hearing you talk, I'm glad I didn't allow that to portray the version of you that people are trying to tell me you were, because you guys are all rad. Like you're all like, you're faulty, you're not perfect, you're incredible musicians, and you're obviously super talented, but like you're human beings like all of us. And it's like to share these hour or so before bus call with you guys, it was such a surreal kind of like, man, how many times have I done that in my life? Whether it's touring, neighbors, other people at work, back in the government stuff, where I'm like, oh, this politician is garbage. Well, it's like when you get to talk to him, it's like, well, now I know the human behind what people are telling me about. And it's like, it's such a euphoric type feeling I had that night.
That's amazing. Isn't it awesome when you get that
Yeah.
like refreshing, like, oh, you're cool. Yeah, you know what I mean? And when it happens, man, and I usually am wrong about it a good amount. where I go to meet someone, I'm like, man, they're a totally rad person. I can't wait. And they're like, they shun me a little bit, or they don't
Yeah.
pay attention. I'm like, wow, man. Uh, so I love it when that happens. And it, you were talking about the way that they made you feel, or like the human element. And that's an important thing, man. Like how Mastodon made you feel, you will carry. Like, man, every
Right.
time you see them like that, and that's your connection with them. Like they made me, I like their humility. I like how cool they were. That's how there's been so many opportunities to make someone feel like every person you meet, every fan, every person is not always easy, but like when I meet other bands, like I like to make them feel, especially if it's a younger band that kind of looks up to us. Now, if it's a band that's bigger and they're more successful, like I like to make sure I give them their props and like, man, I followed your career. Like a lot of musicians respond well to compliments,
Right.
but not always. Some of them are like me. They're uncomfortable with compliments, and that's cool too, because I'm like, man, because I don't want to overload them and make it, because they hear that all the time. I like to just give them props and move on to normal conversations. But I just want to make people feel like, oh man, that Clint, he's a cool guy.
Yeah.
He wasn't chest out, talking over me. He was listening. He was cool and made eye contact and said something pretty nice, and that's not hard, man.
Yeah.
That's not hard to do.
It's yeah, it's just I like the idea that if you walk into a crowded room again, you may overhear something like, "Oh, this band sucks because they're mean to me," or all this stuff. The whole thing. I don't know what happened between you or whatever. Maybe
Yeah.
nine times out of 10, it's usually miscommunication and really not the band's fault. But I want to walk in those rooms and be like, more and more often, just be like, well, hold on a second, these guys are great guys. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I remember when I met Randy Blythe the first time, Land of God, it's like, I do not understand that music. I don't get the screaming. I know I can tell you what a great musicians and frontmen are, and that's what they all are. But talking to him backstage at a show, learning about his photography and like all these other different
Oh,
aspects
he's
of what makes
brilliant.
a human, I'm like, man, now am I going to download your albums? I'm not going to promise that. There'll be some songs I listen to now where I'm like, you know what, this whatever out of respect. But every time I see him, I'm more excited to talk to him about photography, his art, and just the way his life and his work. Like it's so easy to kind of like get lost in the fact, oh, you just know Clint is the guitar player for Sevendust. Well, he's so much more than that. It's like if you once people can start building those relationships with other people, and it's like, oh, he's just your neighbor of 20 years in the street. Well, your neighbor, maybe he's a veteran, maybe he used to be a firefighter, maybe he used to be a whatever, a scientist. It's like getting to know these people outside of these labels. That's where I'm at now in my life. And it's like getting to see these people at shows and stuff, be like, man, I don't care about the show. I don't care about your number one hit single again. Man, tell me about that picture you took of that girl by the water fountain because it's amazing. Stuff
Oh,
like that.
let me tell you a story about Randy. All right. He is, I've met him through my sobriety journey. I love and respect
Yes.
that guy. Is incredible performer, one of the best, if not the best in heavy music. There's all that. Him and Mark, I adore those guys. Two things. My mom was her last year of her life. I couldn't get down there to her. He lives close. He was driving through North Carolina. This is how cool Randy is.
Oh,
Doesn't know my mom. Doesn't. He's a brother to me. I couldn't get my own family to go down at the time because they were caught up in everything. I needed someone to set eyes on my mom. She was in a terrible way. The house is brutal. She was living in filth and she was dying. He went out of his way, drove a couple hours out of the way just to deliver a little bit of food to her, just to put eyes on her for me as a brother.
yeah.
It does not get any. He walked into the house. I told my mom, a friend of mine's going to come look at you. My mom did not want to see anybody. And that dude took hours out of his day, was in the middle of all this stuff, drove and saw her and just told me and reported back to me, man. I will never forget that. And he does that stuff all the time. My last interaction with him was at the Vegas, uh, Sick of It All, or what? I'm not Sick of It All. Sick New
Signet
World.
World. Yep.
And he said, "Hey, I need you to come over here." He's with the guys in a wheelchair. Probably has about a year to live. Hopefully, lives longer. He pulled me over there to meet the guy. Sat with that guy for a couple hours. That's what he does, man. Like he does all this stuff and I'm sure he doesn't boast about that. He just does it, doesn't need to be on social media saying, here's what I did. He does it. And so me even saying that, I praise him. He doesn't have to praise himself because he did that. And he's not a perfect person at all, man. But that dude took his time out, man. I just want to share that story because
Yeah.
I haven't thought about that in a long time, and I remember him, and I need to call him and thank him for doing that. And
Yeah.
that's true. That's He had no skin in that game, but he was of service to my mother, man. My mother on her last year of life, So
Yeah.
I'll never forget that dude. That's who he
Well,
is.
it's like it's one of the reasons why I started this podcast. Is like I could have musicians and actors and authors. It's like, yeah, you gotta talk about like new single, new album. Like I get that. But it seems like that's always done in these interview stuff. I like learning about like different people's like their lives and what they're going through outside of what people famously know them for. And it's like stories like that, and you being so open. And it's like I know we're kind of getting up here on the hour or so, but like not to like drastically change the conversation, but a topic that I've talked to a lot of musicians about, I'd love to hear your take, is the aspect of like artificial intelligence when it comes to what you do for art
Yeah,
and sort of obviously songwriting. Even now, I guess there's AI companies that are doing album artwork outside
yeah,
of, or there's the Lionsgate just bought a company that's going to start creating AI stories where you can turn them into movies. Where
yeah.
it's like, so what are your kind of thoughts on that? Is like, is AI something that's that scary, or can it be harnessed to something that's, when done right? Now we'd have to determine what the right thing is beneficial to creativity and art as a whole.
Man, what a subject, man. It's a great shift too, man. I have a lot of thoughts about it. I won't be too long-winded about it, but all I will say first off is it's a tool. It's a powerful tool. I've used it. I've used it in artwork. I've done that just because I was curious, and I love artists, and I love supporting real artists. And but I do believe in terms of music, I'll speak on that because I'm not.
Right.
That's what I do. So it is a tool. It helps me. There's been other tools before it. There's auto tune. There's effects, and there's things that make kind of a shortcut to make the process easier. Now, AI is a huge jump. I mean, it can do a lot of things, and it's not going anywhere. It is absolutely going to be here. So you might as well embrace it as an artist, as a musician. I think it can open up doors. Like there's this where they do a cover of this like real gritty hip hop song, and they do a '70s version of it. How much money it would take to go in the studio to hire those musicians to go and visualize that. Let's do Dr. Dre's Chronic, but in a '70s band like Grand Funk Railroad kind of version. And it does that, and it does the artwork. And so you're like, immediately as an artist, you had the idea of combining those concepts. So AI facilitates it. It's a powerful tool. Comes from a lot of data. Like I can do demos where I sing the demos, and I could probably get Lejean's voice over it to do a demo because it'll learn his inflections and all that. That I wouldn't really want to do that, but you can, you know.
Right.
So I think it's a beautiful thing. It is scary because it is going to shift and change a lot of people's purposes and mixers. I mean, people aren't going to be mixing songs. The AI is going to do it all very soon. And guess what? From a poor boy mentality that I had, you tell me that I can do this recording myself and I can use AI to get to where I need, and I don't have to have someone, I don't have to miss my mortgage to mix or master a record. I'm going to choose it. So there's ups and downs to all of it. I think like with it, even with ego, it's balance. You have to understand, don't lean on it entirely,
Right.
because I think it's a beautiful process to create and to think and to problem solve. When you're writing music, I think there's a lot of that problem solving and making things feel right. And AI, you can lean on, say, give me a chord progression, alternate, version of this, and then you can flush through them. But people are going to lean on stuff a lot. There's going to be artists that are just the raw, get up, do it, and there's going to be people that have productions with all this, the tracks and all that. And I think both of them serve their own
Yeah.
purpose. They're both cool. Like, oh, that's cool. I mean,
Right.
sometimes I'd rather hear the backing tracks of a singer instead of the actual singer when it's rough. You know, I want to, well, especially with like the background stuff. I'm a fan some of the technology and how it's used, and some of these younger bands using technology. I embrace it. I think it's cool.
Well, it's like we always laugh, at least with the Shinedown stuff. Eric's like, John, I can play all these guitars. I can get a violin player. I can get a trumpet. I get all these instruments. But what touring band outside of maybe 4 or 5 wants to have 16 other band people on
No,
stage to pay for hotels and travel and
can't.
fool? It's like there's a way to make technology work where it's like, yes, I played this in the studio, but I'm not playing the 45 guitar parts I'm playing on stage.
Yeah, we use that too. There's underlaying overdub parts,
Correct.
synths, keyboards, and
Right.
all that stuff. Yeah, I'd love to have like you said, I'd love to have an orchestra, and maybe I'll do one at Robert Hall, maybe one day. But yeah, I'm using backing tracks all day.
Right.
That's part of the experience. Nine Inch Nails, and there's a lot of stuff that a lot of bands that use that. Not that Nine Inch Nails does it, but there's so much cool stuff going on. And,
Correct.
uh, and it's technology driven. So
Right.
yeah, man, I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, especially when you hear like a song for the first time on an album or vinyl, and then when you go to a live show, you don't hear that subtle nuances that, well, if you want to hear that, they gotta do it this way.
Yeah, and there's some bands that do it raw, and it's even
Oh,
better.
yeah,
There's not a lot of bands that there's like bands that have all these things, and then you watch them live, and it's imperfect and it's cool and it's got a different attitude. I love that too. It doesn't
right.
have to be perfect. I like it when it's a little raw, and so some bands are skillful in that way. They can
Yeah,
do it raw and grittier, and there's a whole nother charm to it.
right. Um, Before I let you go, this has been awesome, Clint. Could you kind of, I know obviously you're recovering and stuff. You're not the current tour right now with Sevendust. I've seen the footage and it sounds amazing. Obviously, it's better with you there. But what other news could you kind of share that you got coming for the year? Are you still teaching classes? Other stuff you're working on, stuff like that?
Man, right now I'm just focusing on getting healthy, get my body to cooperate with me. I got more testing and more things ahead to kind of figure out what's going on. So I'll be praying about that, trying to
Yeah,
get that, and I'm staying active. I'm doing as much music at home as I can. Just being a present father, man, and like I said, I put a lot into this music game, and I'm just asking for that patience. To not be able to be out there with them is really hard. But the guys I talk to them, and they're just trudging on, man. I can't physically just be there. I might try to pop out and do a show in Louisville since it's really close, just to get out there with them again, because I'm able to do stuff. I'm just not 100%. And touring, as you know, if you're not 100%, it's tough to heal. So, yeah, man, that's really it. I'm just going to keep working on music. I'm going to try to put that EP together, and the Sevendust
yeah,
has a new record. We're going to work on a whole thing, and that'll start next year. So, yeah,
that's awesome. Well,
yeah.
thank you for the time. Thank you for the honesty, and thank you for being you, Clint.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, John.